What is up, everyone, and welcome back. On April 1st, I did a video. I did a K-pop video. I did an April Fool's video for the amazing subscriber family here on the channel. That video was a reaction style video for the K-pop sensations BTS and their track Fake Love. Now, if you looked around my channel, or you're a subscriber here, you will notice that I predominantly cover hard rock, heavy metal, and I also have a very large collection of videos and content on the Japanese music scene, typically VK, the visual K scene, which I have become a fan of through doing the channel. So covering K-pop is not something that I do, which is why it was fun to do a video that is completely out of character for me and for the channel. Did a couple of things. It challenged me as a critic, challenged me as a content creator here on the channel, and it also allowed me to poke a little fun at a lot of the channels here on YouTube that do the very stereotypical clickbait titles and really are only there for sensationalizing their videos and building a subscriber count or a view count. I've never sub-hunted and I've never view hunted. I'm a critic. I'll always be a critic. And I love doing videos here on the channel. And it allowed me to ham it up a little bit, have a little fun, but at the same time, the opinions that I shared and the critiques that I made are completely honest. Those of you on the channel know that I never sugarcoat things and that I'm always honest about what I have to say. And I always focus on both what I think are positive and negative aspects. I've never done a hit piece in my life, and I don't intend on doing hit pieces. It's just not who I am. There are plenty of other channels that are doing this. Because I truly believe you can find positive and negative things with anybody, including bands that I love, including bands that I've played for. So there's always positives and always negatives. Nothing is perfect. At the same time, nothing is untouchable. We are allowed to have opinions. And the reactions I got were completely expected, both positive and negative. I expected the subscriber base to have a blast and to enjoy it, and they did. They also voiced their opinions. As long as people are respectful about it, I'm great with that. If they're not, and they're insulting and negative, then they get deleted or they don't make it past my content filters. But that's always been the case. There are a lot of comments that get made that don't get posted here on the channel. They never make it past my filters. And that's a good thing, because I'm very happy about having a channel that doesn't have the stereotypical toxic comment section and is the exception to the do not read the YouTube comments rule of thumb on YouTube. I also expected the negative comments. BTS has a massive fan base, and they've reached out and touched a lot of people. They're a humongous band, and they have a ton of success both in Korea and internationally. So they're doing something right. At the same time, I have my preferences, I have my biases, and I'm honest about that. I don't like pitch correction, and BTS uses a lot of it, as does the majority of K-pop, of J-pop, and pop music, hip-hop, and R&B in general at this point. Unfortunately, pitch correction, auto-tune, whatever you want to call it, is an epidemic, and it's one that I don't love. As I stated in the video, I grew up in the 80s where singers could really sing and they really had to sing and really had to nail it on a record. And I still love that. And my favorite singers to this day still nail it on a record. So, positive comments were great. The negative comments, even some of those were good. But I also expected what they were going to be. The taking offense to it and perceiving things that I didn't say. Perceiving superiority of one genre over another. Perceiving ethnic bias. That was a really good one, by the way. There was a commenter who said that I was being ethnocentric because I said that K-pop was not my thing and BTS was not my thing. And actually, it wasn't even K-pop was not my thing. It was BTS is not my thing. Based off that track. I'm actually a fan of G-Dragon and actually own some of his records. Now, I am completely used to the negative comments from that part of the subscriber base. And they happen with every major fandom. If you critique or criticize somebody's band or group or artist, there's going to be those people. They're going to perceive things, basically come up with something based off something you didn't say, based off what they're trying to interpret. I'm always very direct here on the channel. I don't leave things to interpretation because I know exactly what people are going to do. They're going to come up with things or try to read into something. So I'm always completely honest. I don't give you guys ammunition that I don't leave things up to perception. So there was a lovely commenter who attempted to say that metal was a small and narrow box, which is simply not the case, and I could do hours worth of content on why that is the case. Metal and hard rock in general are incredibly diverse genres. All of the different subgenres in metal and all of the different influences that happen all over the hundreds of thousands of bands that have come and gone in metal is incredible. And I'm not going to spend hours expounding upon them. I've covered a bunch of very diverse bands here on the channel and will continue to do so. That use different instrumentation, that pull influences from their cultural music to classical, to jazz, to blues, to funk, to folk, to country, to bluegrass, to Celtic, to Gaelic, to traditional Japanese and Korean instruments, to other instruments from their cultures. So metal is probably the most diverse genre and subgenres out there in music. Very few other styles incorporate a lot of metal into their style. Metal incorporates the majority. I'm not going to say all because I don't like making absolute statements, but metal incorporates a lot. And as far as the musicianship goes compared to pop, in general, not always, but typically the rule of thumb is metal takes more musicianship. You have school-trained musicians from Juilliard and Berkeley and well-known musical universities all over the world that congregate in metal and write and compose some incredibly amazing stuff. Usage of full orchestras is not uncommon. See the current Astura record, The Room, is a fantastic example that utilizes two different orchestras from both Europe and the Middle East in Lebanon. So that was a really interesting one. There was the usual, you're being arrogant, you're an elitist, it's so tragic. It felt like it was so tragic that you were having to listen to little girl or teenage girls music. I think it was teenage girls music. I could be wrong. I might have misquoted. If I did, I'm sorry that I misquoted you. But fully expected it. And when you respond back with that typical type of fan, and it's not exclusive to BTS, it's happened with all of the major fandoms that I've covered. When you respond back and refute claims, the goalposts get moved. And suddenly it's completely different. Oh, well, you didn't use the right song. Or you didn't do this. Or you didn't see them live. So, since I did the video and read a bunch of comments, I've listened to about 20 tracks. I've watched several lives, to include some that were quote unquote acoustic and unplugged. And I haven't heard a studio track yet that is not drenched in auto-tune. Unfortunately, that is part of the style, and I accept that. But I can't make a definitive comment on vocals when they're covered in vocal treatments. The only time I'm really a fan of auto-tune usage or pitch correction or vocoders is when they're used for coloring or used in certain styles, like electronic heavy stuff, aggro tech, industrial, all the different subgenres in the electronic music realm, because they use it for very different things. And they're not really trying to showcase or show off vocal range. It's more for coloring, it's more for different textures. In the pop realm, it's more there to fix vocals and put that onus on perfection. And so the acoustic, the unplugged stuff, it's still a backing track. A couple of them that I looked at, you can tell that it was a studio track or it had a ton of post-processing. And when you look at the band performing, they're sitting down. However, there are no monitors to be found anywhere. And there's no inner ears. There's no monitors in front. And you're not hearing anything coming through the microphones, which means it was either a board recording, or it was pre-recorded, or it was fixed in post. And you can hear the vocal treatments being applied. So they're there, which unfortunately kills it being unplugged. Also, if you look at the techniques that BTS utilize when they grab a mic, they're cupping. They're cupping. So when you're not hearing that loss of frequency and you're not hearing that slight muffle and mute when they're singing, you can tell it's been modified afterwards. Because if you cup part of a microphone like they do, and like a lot of people do, unfortunately, regardless of what people want to say, types of microphones, if you cup a mic, you're going to lose frequencies. You're going to get some muffling. It's going to happen. That's how microphones work. If you cup around that sound chamber, you're going to lose something. And you're going to be able to, if you know what you're listening to, you're going to be able to hear it. If you're familiar with studio engineering, you're going to understand that. So that kind of put a dampener on trying to believe the hype. Because we all hype up bands we like. Well, let's say all of us, but the majority of people hype up the bands they like. Even I have bands I love. It's also hard to critique bands I love, but I do it on the channel if I cover them on the channel, because if I cover one band, I've got to cover them all. One band one way, I've got to cover them all the same way. For instance, when I did the full Everywhere record for The Atlantic, I was worried that I might not like it. I thought I was going to, and I bought it anyway. But I was fully prepared to critique it if there were a bunch of things that I thought were wrong. And I still haven't found that BTS track that's blowing me away yet. It could be out there. I truly believe that every band or artist out there has at least one track that's going to appeal to someone, to each person, each listener. And I truly think that there might be one or two or more than that out there that I might suddenly love. Does that mean I'm going to become a BTS fan? I don't know. It might not. I'm probably not going to reach for them every day. Granted, there's plenty of artists that I listen to that I don't reach for every day. And as a music critic who hears so much music during the week and during the year, I tend to reach to the really comfortable stuff and the stuff that I really love when I do actually get a chance to listen to music for myself and not for the channel or a written review or for the job. However, I just happen to be able to do a job here on the channel that I love on top of what I also do. And I'm very fortunate because of that. But BTS are still an incredibly successful band. And they still reach out and touch millions of people. My opinion is not going to change that. My opinion is not here to degrade the guys and say that they're bad. Because, one, it doesn't matter what I say. People are going to love them regardless. People are going to enjoy them regardless. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with liking any musician or any band. Don't predicate your likes and dislikes based on the opinion or based on what somebody else says you should or shouldn't like. I put up an opinion. I put up an experienced opinion and hope that I can reach somebody. And if I get one person to like a band or hear a band they haven't, or an artist they haven't heard before, and that generates one more fan for that artist, then I'm incredibly happy and I've done my job. So that's how I look at it. And I know they've touched a lot of people. I know they've helped a lot of people. Any good artist does. Miguel Inglés, the singer of the band Equileft, a Portuguese progressive band, said something a couple of days ago in the video that I did after the BTS video for their track We Defy, which is fantastic and you should certainly check out. Plug, plug, wink, 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 nudge, nudge. If you're into progressive gent style 8-string mayhem with really killer atmospherics and accent stuff, he said that it's one of the best feelings in the world, and I'm paraphrasing here, one of the best feelings in the world to have people understand your music. And I absolutely agree as a musician and as a critic and as a fan. That is the most important thing. And just because I don't get it doesn't mean you guys can't get it. And I have fans of the channel that love other stuff that are also BTS fans. And because of one of my longtime subscribers, who is a really big BTS fan, as well as a couple of others, I'm going to revisit them. I'm going to do one of their favorite tracks here in a little bit, in a couple of weeks, most likely. And I'll revisit them as well as listening to different stuff and see if I can find that one. Find that one or possibly more that absolutely blow me away. But message to all of those out there that are trying to push how great they are: don't overhype a band. Don't. When you're telling people how great the vocals are, or how great the lyrics are, or how amazing the compositions are, and they listen to stuff that they feel is stronger, it's gonna hurt them in their listening experience because they have all this hype And part of it, it can be a challenge. Oh, you say they're that great, and suddenly you hear it, and you realize, well, I'm not feeling that greatness. And I actually had that reaction listening to a couple of the tracks that were recommended. Is, oh, well, I'm not getting it. Somebody said, oh, recently, I guess earlier on tonight, in the comments about how the vocals are so great on this performance of Jin live. I didn't get it. I didn't feel they were great. I felt they were solid. But great is tough, especially when you're somebody like me who loves big voiced singers and have a spot in my heart for multi-octave singers with classical training in some respects. Like, I absolutely love Floor Jensen, who is the vocalist for Nightwish, the former vocalist for After Forever, and also her side band Revamp, because she's a fantastic, classically trained singer. I have a massive soft spot for the incredible Anna Murphy from Ulvadi and Cellar Darling. Absolutely love Bjorn Strid from Soilwork because he's got a big voice and has a diverse, eclectic range. Also a humongous fan of Iced Earth's singer Stu Block, who used to sing for Into Eternity, and that guy has got a gigantic voice. And he's very adept at styles, and there's so many other singers that I absolutely love that are big voiced singers. You know, big fan of the late great Lane Stanley, who just had one of those ridiculously natural gifts of a vocal that is simply never going to be replaced. So for me, for a vocalist to be great, they've really got to be something special. And that's simply because I listen to a lot of music and I have high standards. And I just haven't heard that yet. And part of that is by design. You know, BTS doesn't have massive. From what I have heard, I have not encountered a track yet that has these massive vocal parts. And most pop won't. Some will. There's always exceptions. But I haven't gotten that yet. But I don't know. There might be. It might be out there, and I just haven't had an encounter yet. If it is out there, I will absolutely do a video for it if I encounter it. I promise you. But overall, from what I've heard, I can understand why so many people really enjoy them. But they're just not my thing. I haven't been able to find a track that clicks and resonates with me yet. Hopefully I will. And I won't rule out that possibility. And, you know, if anything, even with the negative comments, at least they're not as bad as some of the comments I've had. When I did my first critique for Duran Gray's Hagisha, which was another track that was ridiculously hyped up by certain people who have been blocked from the channel for their incredibly negative and disrespectful comments towards me and others, I caught a bunch of flack. I even had death threats. None of it ever made it to the channel because it hit my chat filters. But I've had several death threats, and threats on my life, threats on the lives of my family, threats on the lives of my dogs. But my dogs are hanging out, laying not too far from me. My family's alive, and I'm still making videos. So I'm not dead yet. It is what it is. But as far as not being courageous or worried about what people think, I'm not, and I never will be. Words are words. And one way or another, they're created to elicit a prescribed response. After my time in the military, there are very few things that are going to get to me. I've got thick enough skin. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to do this as long as I have. And as far as bantering back and forth, I engage a lot with my subscribers and people in channel comments, and I always have. And I actually have to dial that down some because I find that to be rather fun. and I like engaging. So I'm not worried about that either. Thank you guys. I love you. I'm not going to keep you here any longer. But to the BTS fans, more power to you. I'm glad you like the band. I'm glad you follow the band. I'm glad you love them, you support them, you promote them. Every fan base needs that loyal contingent that does. And they depend on it. As somebody who used to run street teams for bands, it really helps. It does. Word of mouth is still a fantastic tool. So good on you. And you have my respect. To my subscribers, you guys are probably sitting here chuckling, laughing, smiling a little bit. To all you else out there, I appreciate your comments regardless. I'm not going to like all of them because, well, that would be lying to you. But I'll probably respond to most. If anything, I'll have a little fun with you. Either way, thank you for being here and thank you for checking out the video regardless. I love you. Thank you to my law enforcement, military, veterans, and first responders for what you guys do every single day. You're always in my thoughts. All of you, whatever country you serve, all across the globe, you do something fantastic for the nation you serve. As always, you have been awesome. I have been Baldman. I will see you in the next one. Be excellent to each other. Keep head bang.